Welcome back to the WSU Democrats podcast. My name is Ethan Bishop. I'm the president of the organization.
I'm Vaughn. I'm the vice president.
And today we have a very special episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about Nick Cannon calling the Democrats the party of the KKK, Trump putting his name on the dollar, Iran, the DHS shutdown, and NASA Artemis II. So let's start with Nick Cannon calling Democrats the party of the KKK and pro-Trump comments. This is what I think about this. Calling today's Democratic Party the party of the KKK is historically sloppy and just stupid because it treats labels as fixed across 160 years while ignoring how the party's changed. Now, it is true that the Ku Klux Klan arose in the post-Civil War South, where many white supremacists identified as Democrats, but that was in the era when the white South was the Democratic Party's conservative wing, fiercely opposed to Reconstruction and black civil rights. During Reconstruction, the Klan targeted black voters and Republican office holders, and the federal government under Republican leadership passed anti-Klan enforcement laws to crush that terror campaign. In the 20th century, especially around civil rights, the National Democratic Party increasingly aligned itself with civil rights legislation, culminating in the Democratic President Lyndon Johnson pushing for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. After that period, the South underwent a major partisan realignment, and the Republican Southern strategy explicitly sought to win Southern voters alienated by civil rights advances. By the late 1970s, much of the old segregationist South had shifted into the Republican coalition. So, in short, yes, many historical, Klan sympathizers and members of the Ku Klux Klan were Democrats in the 19th and early 20th centuries, but invoking that fact as if it describes the modern Democratic Party is like claiming a person's political identity never changed after switching jerseys, values, and constituency, and over time as well. The better way to judge a party is by its present coalition, policy commitments, and historical evolution. On that measure, this just random slogan that Nick Cannon wants to throw out fails because it confuses the name of a party with the ideology that actually moved from one coalition to another over time. So it's so ridiculous when people say, oh, the Democratic Party is the party of the KKK, they're the party of the racists, they're the party of this and that. It's like, no, the Democratic Party at the time was the conservative party in the United States. They were more so for states' rights. That's what the conservatives are advocating for. It's more progressive to advocate for a more centralized federal government, which is more so what Abraham Lincoln was wanting. He didn't want them to secede from the Union, and they were so conservative, they thought that states should have the right to do so, all because of slavery. All because, they wanted to not increase our circle of compassion. They wanted to narrow it. They wanted to keep it narrow. What does that sound like? That sounds like the Republican Party trying to persecute trans people and women and take away DEI and even, keep Confederate war general statues like Robert E. Lee up in places where the people, they just don't want it up because he is a war hero of a separate country at the time that was trying to destroy the United States in order to secede. That's what they were trying to do. They attacked us first. And at the time, that was the conservatives. Okay. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, like states' rights, they're anti-equality, all of these things. These are not characteristics of the modern day Democratic Party. They're characteristics of the modern day Republican Party because there was the party switch, which a big part of this that I didn't put in my little description there was that some black people came into the Democratic Party under FDR with the New Deal and some of the economic opportunity. So some of it started there, and then it culminated with literally a racist Lyndon B. Johnson signing the Civil Rights Act into law. But what do you think about this?
I mean, first, consider the source. Nick Cannon, doesn't he have like 30 baby mamas or something crazy? Like, you're not going to take – I hate when celebrity – like, I'm all for celebrities using their platform to, push certain views. But you can pick and choose like which celebrities you can tell the ones that don't really know what they're talking about and aren't very well educated. And this guy seems like one of them. And then, like you said, who does this sound like? White nationalism, oppression of marginalized groups, and just violence. That sounds to me more like the Republican Party than Democrat. But I think regardless, it's just a baseless claim because it's the same thing to say Germans are Nazis. All Germans are Nazis still to this day. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of them were in World War II, and now they're not. So, I mean, yeah, it's just completely ridiculous, and it's based on nothing.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison to be like, oh, well, you think that the Democrats are the party of the KKK? Well, Germany is the country of Hitler.
Yeah,
It's like it's the same exact logic.
yeah,
And if anything, it it's more valid to say that about Germany because that's more recent than slavery
yeah,
and
yeah,
the civil rights
yeah.
or that the Civil War actually. Um and all that. So it's just fucking ridiculous. And what pisses me off about it is like Nick Cannon, he's obviously a black man. I wonder if he's getting bankrolled to try to lie to try to increase Republicans' vote share among black people because they know that even though they made gains in the 2024 election because everyone wanted affordability, now that everything is not fucking affordable, gas prices are through the roof. Like all of the gains that Trump made among Hispanics, among black people, among uh even these low education people are starting to turn against Trump as well. They all hate him now and they're all supporting Democrats, if they're supporting anyone at all. Um, so, I mean, it just goes to show that it seems like they might be getting desperate and they're trying to just pour cold water over the Democratic Party because they see that we're probably going to flip the House. And according to the betting odds, last I checked, we're projected to flip the Senate too.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Yeah, and then I just got a little carried away. I just do want to mention, again, consider the source, Nick Cannon. So he has 12 children with 6 different women, and some of the names of his kids are Moroccan, Golden Sagon, Powerful Queen, Rise Messiah. The list goes on. It's like, should you be taking political advice from someone like this guy? Absolutely fucking not. But anyways, if you want to move on, or yeah. So Trump wants to put his name on the $100 bill. This is from MarketWire. They said it is a reflection of how our institution functions, not an item to politically validate a current leader. By tying his identity to the currency, he's politicizing something that should always remain neutral. This makes me think of when how he doesn't like Jerome Powell and wants to get him out of there when that should be a nonpartisan seat. Trump is just making a lot of positions of government should be nonpartisan. He's now turning them toward being influenced by politics and controlled by politics when they shouldn't be. So he wants to do this. It would go into effect in June, and it would only print on new bills, so you wouldn't really see it too often for a while, at least because bills stay in circulation for many years. And it would require a bill passed by Congress, and that would likely face criticism from independent courts, which would make it much harder to get passed. I can't see this happening right now. The only signatures on the bill are the Treasurer and the Secretary of Treasury. That's how it's been since late 1800s, since we first started printing the dollars. So, yeah, it's just another one of his, he knows he's dying and wants to kind of feel like a god, and he wants to put statues up of himself. He wants to put his signature on the dollar. He wants to rename the Kennedy Center, the Trump Center. He wants to rename one other thing after himself. He just put up some statue in D.C. Of Christopher Columbus, and put his name on that because obviously, I mean, he just has to have his name on everything because it's all about this strongman persona, this authoritarian regime that he's trying to run. And I don't understand how people don't see that happening. They don't see what his end goal here is. And he's not only, naming new things after himself, but he's taking away the resemblance and the purpose of some of these places that were named after other people and just throwing his on there and ruining their reputation.
Yeah. I think it's just another example of Trump and his fucking massive ego. So that explains in part why he's okay striking Iran, maybe trying to take over Iran, striking Venezuela, maybe even taking over Venezuela, talking about taking over Canada, talking about taking over Greenland, Mexico, all these other countries. That's all more of the same thing. He wants to control more countries because he wants more power, and that's what he thrives off of is power and feeling powerful. There's very few things that he actually cares about, like ICE. I don't think he's an actual ICE supporter technically. He doesn't really give a fuck. He just thought that that's what the white nationalists wanted, so he said, "Oh, okay, mass deportations." But he doesn't really care. That's why he retracted a lot of ICE agents and ended Operation Metro Surge. Um, but as far as things that impact his ego directly, such as losing an election, yeah, he cares a hell of a lot about that. That's why he tried to overthrow the election and then win. Even if you like, even if I'm ultra charitable and I'm like, yeah, Trump didn't actually direct the mob to attack the. Did someone just knock?
No, that's my foot.
Oh, um, like he didn't actually direct the mob to attack the Capitol. Okay. The most damning piece of evidence is that he sat there for hours while it was going on and did nothing to stop it because he wanted to see if it would succeed. I think that's genuinely what he was doing. He wanted to see if, okay, let's see if this works, even if he wasn't doing that. And then the phone records from in the White House were wiped. So we don't know what he was talking about. There's reporting that he was just talking about other efforts to overturn the 2020 election. But that goes to show you're talking about how to overturn it while there's a riot taking place. Like, so, and then putting his name on money, he already had, Trump coin and, he had Trump steaks, he had a Trump university that closed down.
Because
Trump
of
Tower.
fraud.
Yeah. Like I said, Trump Tower. Uh, what else there's Trump everything.
Yeah.
Like, because he loves that and he loves to see himself on everything because that's how big his ego is. I don't actually think I actually don't think he cares that much about money necessarily, other than just like it makes him feel good in his head. It's not actually because it's money. Like
Yeah.
he's a very particular person because he has a very simplistic mind where he's just like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get power and to do whatever I like, and I don't really give a fuck what people say about me or anything like that. Like, because the whole thing with posting like the video of the Obamas as apes, and like it's like, yeah, they deleted it likely because no, there's no way they didn't expect as much backlash as they got. Maybe he wanted to distract from something from the Epstein files or something and then blame it on a staffer, or maybe it actually was a staffer. But if you have your own staffer posting that, I think there's probably something wrong with the administration. Because why is that even like, why wouldn't they watch the whole video? And if they're posting it to the fucking president's account, they probably did watch the whole video. Maybe they didn't though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was kind of a long-winded answer.
Good. Yeah, I think that was it's probably for distraction, as we know, because there is no way out of the Epstein files. There's just delaying it and distracting people from it. So because he knows it will be the end of him, so he's just trying to steer away from that as much as possible. So with Iran, so the average price of gasoline in the U.S. passed $4 this morning for the first time since 2022. And it comes as a tanker laden with oil was hit by an Iranian attack off Dubai. Trump has urged allies who did not join the war to go get their own oil. He said, Iran has been essentially decimated. Not true. He said, the hard part is done. Go get your own oil. Again, just absolutely ridiculous. Trying to just pass the blame, right? This whole gasoline crisis right now is all because of him and Israel, I guess. And he's just trying to pass the blame, say just deal with it to the other countries. And then Trump has also threatened Iran's energy and water if a deal is not reached soon. Tehran has said that this is unrealistic and has further threatened U.S. troops. And he just keeps talking about he's going to destroy Iran. If they don't make a deal, we're just going to obliterate them. And I was sitting in my history lecture, and my professor was talking about it a little bit, and he had a really good point. I mean, what is the end goal here with this war? Because he says he wants to end the conflict. He wants to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and denuclearize Iran. I don't fully believe that that's the actual reason, but how is any of the actions that they've committed so far going to accomplish these things? I mean, he's killed their supreme leader, where they just install someone directly under him, and he just absolutely destroys their country, kills their children, just wipes out thousands of civilians, and the only thing this is going to do is further radicalize them and make peace deals and negotiating more difficult. And we're seeing exactly that play out. That he says, if they don't make a deal, blah, blah, blah. Iran says, we never talked about a deal. We're not going to make a deal. Like, and you're just going to keep bombing them. And then they're going to be like, okay, like, I guess we surrender. Like I shouldn't say they, but not everyone, but a lot of people in Iran and the government hate the U.S., and with good reason, because like I said before, we just have absolutely destroyed their country, killed thousands of civilians, killed hundreds of children. Why wouldn't they hate us, and why aren't they going to fight until their last breath,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Where you're just like, we're going to bomb them until they surrender, which, I mean, technically that worked out in World War II with Japan, but I mean, still, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go about it. Like with Iran, something had to be done very carefully, which is, if you wanted to actually do this right, what I would say is, one, you need to focus on domestic policy first. And then two, what you need to do is, like, if you're going to strike Iran like that, you're going to kill their leader, you need regime change from the jump. So if you're going to do that, what you need to do is take out the supreme leader, put a bunch of droids on the ground, which is what I have envisioned, who can take whatever rocks or even maybe even gunfire from civilians and just be like, screw it. And we're going to liberate this country, and we're just going to take out, any member of the government that wants to try to stop us, as far as like the military or the police. Like, not to say just randomly kill them, but if they're trying to stop, the regime change, you would stop that. And then you would put in place, I'm not sure who the leading activist is there, but the leading human rights activist, put them as in charge, and then set them up with a constitution so that there will be elections and all of that. That's what Trump should have done with Venezuela. He should have put the opposition leader as the leader of Venezuela, but no, he had Maduro's vice president be the leader. That's not how you even do it. So you just killed people, and you took over a country. Well, you didn't take over a country. That's part of the problem. And you didn't even fundamentally change anything. So what the fuck was even the point of that? Like, and I feel like that's going to be the situation with Venezuela and Iran, is fundamentally nothing changed. And in the case of Iran, you killed a bunch of schoolgirls for nothing in that instance.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, nothing changes in terms of getting better or worse. Or a lot of the time, I've said this before, when it comes to regime change in foreign countries, by the time we pull out of their country, it's in a worse state than when we came in, which is really powerful, because it was so bad when we entered. And even so, by the time we leave, it's worse off. And yeah, all those, the thousands and thousands, tens of thousands in some cases, of innocent civilians just died for absolutely nothing. They had no say in it. They didn't want any of it to happen. And yeah, it's just absolutely an atrocity. But so moving on, so some TSA workers are being paid because Trump signed an executive order on March 27th to pay TSA workers during the partial government shutdown of DHS. And the shutdown is still ongoing at 46 days, marking the longest partial shutdown in history. And this is just, kind of not really a get out of jail free card, but his executive order, he knows that the airports are extremely backed up across the country, and that makes him look bad because it's his party's fault, I should say. And so, he just signed this executive order to pay some of the TSA workers so that, and the airport TSA lines have extremely shortened and gone back to, I think, normal numbers. I think it's safe to say, but again, it's just a quick fix, not a long fix, and we're just still going to see this gridlock in Congress, and I'm really anxious to see what they decide on this funding bill for DHS because it is just so polarizing, and I can't see an agreement soon.
Yeah.
Unless one side just concedes.
And I realized in the last podcast, I made a mistake. So as far as the DHS funding bill, I don't think that there's any hope for like the Democrats, what they want to be implemented. What I do think might happen, because I saw reporting that Trump and the Republicans are planning this, is that they're going to separate ICE funding from the DHS bill, so they wouldn't put the restrictions on use of force or no mask, but they also wouldn't put any funding for ICE in there, and they would just fund everything else, like the airports and TSA. And then they also considered, because initially Trump wanted his Save America Act passed, they said, and he wanted the ICE as part of the DHS bill, they said, oh, well, through reconciliation, which is usually, well, it's always having to do with the budget. So you allocating money towards something, very, as far as economics goes, I actually need to look into like what specifically could fall under reconciliation, because they said that they would try to add some parts of the ICE funding and even parts of the voting bill in the reconciliation bill, when I was under the impression that really the only bills that can be passed by that are like economics, like the American Rescue Plan, which was the COVID stimulus bill, that was passed through reconciliation, or the Inflation Reduction Act. That was all economic stuff. But can you put like ICE related or voting rights related, especially? It's interesting. I'm not really sure what the parameters are on that. But because something like abortion rights, you cannot pass through reconciliation because that's too far off. So, yeah, I never thought about that before. But
a little gray area. And
yeah, like we don't know what exactly could fall under reconciliation, because reconciliation only needs 51 votes, whereas the filibuster needs 60 to end it. So,
yeah, and there's no reason that shouldn't be allowed, because Trump has bypassed constitutional processes through executive orders. So, to bypass the filibuster, might as well.
Yeah.
So Artemis 2 is set to launch tomorrow at 6:24 p.m. This is NASA's mission to send 4 astronauts into space, marking the first crewed lunar mission in over 50 years. They were going to do it in February, and then it got pushed to March, and now it got pushed to April because of weather. But it's looking like they're going to take off tomorrow. So what this is, the flight path of the rocket will start from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida and use a gravitational slingshot to gain momentum towards the moon, where they kind of go back around the Earth and come in a little close and gain momentum through gravity and kind of launch themselves at the moon. And then they'll go around the back of the moon, where they will lose complete contact with the Earth for 40 minutes. Just some quick facts. It's the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built, and they have the number 250 on the side for America's 250th. The whole mission will last about 10 days, and the goal of the mission is to test all of the systems and prepare for Artemis 3, where we will actually land on the moon again. So the Apollo missions, there were obviously a lot of those, and I can't remember which one it was, but they basically had an unmanned craft do this same path around the moon, and then they did it with humans, and then they landed. And so we're doing the same thing with this Artemis mission, as we already flew the rocket unmanned, this same flight path, and now we're doing it with 4 astronauts. And there's a lot of uncertainty. Some people think it's moving a little too quickly. We haven't tested things well enough, and we'll just have to see what happens. We'll test the life support systems and how well everything functions with zero contact from the Earth, which normally we have 100% of the time contact with Earth. So I'm really excited for this because, like, again, over 50 years since we left low Earth orbit, because obviously it's extremely expensive, and then this is just one step further to a permanent civilization or some form of establishment on the moon.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, some people would say, "Oh, well, that's a waste of resources or something." I would say no. If anything, it's a down payment on if something happened to Earth, or because I know the moon isn't as big as Earth or whatever. But if we could find a way to make that habitable, like that would be crazy. But then again, if we could make it habitable, wouldn't that rely on resources from Earth? So, I mean, there's different things to it, but I think that having a space station like that would be awesome. I think that, it'd be great for science. It'd be great for defense. And I think it would be great for education, because then you can actually show that. You could have people give field trips to the moon and all that. Like, that would be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could learn about it, learn about space. Like, I would have loved that as a little kid. Like, just literally going to space and being on the moon. Like, that would be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of videos and posts about this whole thing lately on social media, and I open the comments, and every time there's at least one flat earther or just someone who doesn't believe we went to the moon, and the fact that their vote counts as much as mine just aggravates the shit out of me. Like, I want to debate with someone who doesn't believe we went to the moon, but I also don't, because I would just, like, what do you even say to that when they're so, in such a level of denial that it's like, how do you even, reason with someone like that? But
yeah. And on some things, like, so the flat earth is a good metaphor for other things, because it's very like obvious that the earth is not flat because of all the evidence.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that people believe that when you think about it, it's basically on the level of a flat earther. Like, when you think about, like, for example, at the tabling event, they were saying that abortion is dangerous to the woman, and they were saying that women left and right regret abortion. That's not fucking true. Like, as far as deaths, I'm pretty sure that's under 1%, and all that. Like, it's incredibly safe to get an abortion for the pregnant person. And then as far as regret goes, the amount of people who said it was right 5 years later was about 95%, according to the source I use that I'm going to use for the debate. So they can say all that kinds of things about, oh, I don't believe your sources, I don't believe your studies, or explain your studies, explain your sources. Okay, I can explain it to an extent, but I can't explain the nitty-gritty of it, just like how I can't exactly explain the nitty-gritty of why the earth is not flat. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't believe that, or I'm not justified in believing that. It's because I actually listen to the experts. And that's what you should do on everything. You don't need to be an expert on everything if you ask the experts, and you can't be an expert on everything. So you need to delegate some of that epistemic humility to someone else and just assume that, hey, this is probably the best information I can get because these people are the leading researchers in this field, or they are the leading thinkers here. Just like when people say that, and then this is a little bit different, but that LDL cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. It clearly causes heart disease. Like, I think it's like, if it was only like, I can't remember. I think it's 70 milligrams per deciliter of cholesterol. You're upping, like, you have an increased risk of atherosclerosis and all that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up trust the professionals, because on one hand, we have the Trump administration who like a lot of authoritarian regimes, they suppress and silence the journalists, the scientists, all the universities, the intellectuals, because those are the people who speak out for what's right, and those are the people that are also kind of trusted, especially the professionals. And that kind of reminds me of one argument I had today. We were tabling in the union, and we heard that Young Americans for Freedom was doing a day of detransition or whatever that they did last year. So we had a bunch of pro-trans stuff at our table. And I went and talked with him for a while, and he just kind of seemed like he fleeted around my question and didn't really answer anything. But I told him, I said, well, do you think being transgender is a mental illness? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, okay, well, both the World Health Organization and our national health organization do not classify being transgender as a mental illness. So you're not a doctor. Why do you get to say it's a mental illness? And he said, well, it's about politics, not science. Well, mental illness, it is science. And where he was going with that is that it used to be classified as a mental illness, and then it got dropped because they realized it wasn't, because it was heavily researched, heavily studied. There was reason to drop it. And like, I kind of get what he's saying. Like, it's about, or I don't know, I guess I shouldn't even say that, because he said it was about politics. That's why it was dropped. No, it was dropped because of science, because they did a ton of intensive studies and realized that they do have what is it, gender dysphoria on the list, which is where your mind and body don't align, and that causes a lot of anxiety and depression and sorts of things. And then when you get gender affirming care, they match up, and then it's the most proven form to help transgender people. And then I also just kind of debated with him on a lot of other things, and I asked him, do you think women should have the right to vote? And he said no. And I pressed him on that, and he kind of conceded a little bit. I think they should be able to vote, but restricted voting, and everyone to be able to vote, everyone should take a civics test, and if you pass, you can vote. And I said, well, okay, well, do you think more men or more women would pass that test? And he said, well, it's probably about even. And so then I said, well, then why are women restricted, more than men if they pass the civics test just as evenly? So he just kind of went all over the place, and couldn't really stand concrete on something. And then the other thing is, this goes with what they were doing today with Day of Detransition, and also especially with immigrants and a lot of other issues. They focus on the 1%, and 95% of what they talk about is 1% of the issue. He has all these pictures and stories of people that were transgender and regret their choices and regret their gender affirming care and transgender operations. The regret rate of transgender operations is significantly less, a fraction of regret rates of all other forms of surgery: hip surgery, heart surgery, plastic surgery, all these things. And they focus on that 1% that regrets it, and they make that the biggest deal. And then he focuses on transgender mass shooters that are less than 1% of all mass shooters. Like, that obviously being transgender has nothing to do with that. So just focusing on the 1%, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it does give me hope for the debate, though, because I think you guys are going to destroy them, because they have no evidence and studies to back up their claims. And if they do, it's that 1%. And it's like, okay, well, why are we even talking about that? That's not really relevant.
Yeah, I talked to one girl who, at the abortion table that they did, and this was a woman who was part of the organization. She was like college aged, but she didn't go to Weber State, and and I was having a conversation with her about it. It was actually a pretty respectful conversation. And she was basically saying how it's super unsafe to get an abortion and they regret it so often. That was like the two specifically that we were talking about. And I was like, I told her about like my resources and all that. And I was like, well, I believe in the scientific consensus because I think that that's, that's where the experts are. That's most justified to believe. And then she was like, oh, well, it's all biased. And then I was like, I kind of tried to, uh, like be like, okay, what are your sources if they're not biased? I was genuinely curious. Like, what are your sources? And she pulls up a fucking YouTuber and is like, oh yeah, she makes all this stuff. She's independent research. She's like all this shit. Bro, that's a fucking conservative propagandist that
Yeah.
you just tried to show me
Yeah.
to try to trick me into thinking random bullshit that she fucking regurgitates. Right wing propaganda, period. Oh, you're looking at all these studies and national resources and national reviews and all this kind of stuff and meta analyses. Oh, no, look at this random fucking YouTuber who has an agenda. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
seriously. And if they try to do that in the debate, I'll just be like, why should I believe your source? And where's your evidence that just because people might have basic empathy, that makes science biased? Because their
Mhm.
argument is that, oh, well, transgender was dropped as a mental illness because of people's feelings and all that. It's like having a common respect for trans people is not enough to fundamentally alter medical literature unless the studies literally showed that. And it would be a huge conspiracy and they would be using that like fucking ammo
Mm.
if that actually did happen, if they were like intentionally, because that's like Doge, taking studies off of the federal government's website, right? That's
Yeah.
a huge
Yeah.
deal. If all of these medical organizations were like, oh, we like transgender people, so we're going to remove it from the mental illness. It's like, no, that did not happen. It's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. I'm
Yeah.
so sick of these people like not even trying to engage with what the actual facts are. And they just say it's all biased and it's all anecdotes and fear mongering. And that's what I'm going to say is like, look, I'm not saying every study is perfect, but I have multiple credible studies, meta analyses, national reviews that all point towards the same conclusion. And that is a hell of a lot more, uh, valid than fear mongering and anecdotes, which is what they have,
Yeah.
or some random YouTuber.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, a source should be able to be proven, one, and it also should be universal. It should apply to everyone. So when they want to use the Bible as their justification, well, everyone's not religious. So that's kind of just a book, a piece of paper. It doesn't apply to everyone. So you can't really use that. And then you use these sources that just kind of throw up these numbers written by some random dude and not peer reviewed, just again, like you said, some random YouTuber with an agenda. You can't use that in a debate. And I hope they do, because they will get destroyed when they use baseless claims like that. It's not going to work.
And when they try to, because they're going to do a vote at the end where they ask all the audience members who won.
Yeah.
If they're doing that, I think that it's kind of going to be hard for them to win. Like if we're like, oh yeah, this source says this. Like for example, I have it off the top of my head. The Endocrine Society says that gender affirming care should be handled by a multidisciplinary team, and that an JAMA review also showed that in 2024 there's basically no gender affirming surgeries for minors, and there was absolutely zero for anyone under 12.
Yeah.
And then as far as abortion, I mean, if you want to talk about sentience, which will be a huge thing, that it doesn't arise before 24 to 28 weeks. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Royal College for Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and again, JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, all say that before 24 weeks, it is not likely. And that's at the third trimester.
What's
That's
not likely?
pain.
Oh, pain. Okay.
And without pain, and this
Yeah.
is why some people think consciousness is more complicated than it is. And as a philosophy major, when I think about it, consciousness is as a subjective experience. It's the ability to say, I like this and I don't like this. Even if it's
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
primordial level, you have some kind of desire.
Yeah.
And that first desire comes from pain. Because if you feel pain, ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I like not feeling pain, or I like pleasure, basically. Once they start feeling that, they have interests. Before that, they have absolutely no interest, and aborting a fetus before they're sentient is just like two people never making love and having a child.
Yep.
It's the same exact thing.
Yep.
But
yeah, and they'll argue the opposite, but yeah, I agree with you there.
I think the biggest thing to get over in the debate is and me and Macy are basically going to be arguing that human life isn't the determining factor
Exactly.
that matters.
Exactly.
Because we could try to twist ourselves into a pretzel saying, oh, life doesn't start at conception, but biologically it does. So you have to
But that's not the argument.
What?
When life begins, that's not what it's about. It's about, controlling women's bodies. That's
yeah. But I mean, we'd still have to take that head on as as an argument. So we would say, like, actually, I actually came up with a good one where it's like, yeah, someone who's brain dead is technically alive, just like how a non-sentient fetus is alive. But if and they have extrinsic value tied to their family, just like how the fetus has extrinsic value tied towards the mother. But if they want to pull the plug, or if the mother wants to have an abortion, that is their decision. It's fundamentally, and when they say, oh, well, the baby is fully formed, the brain dead person is fully formed. It's like, does that make it wrong to kill them?
Yeah.
No, because they are brain dead. And the potential argument doesn't work, because when you're saying, oh, well, you stopped the potential, whereas with brain dead person, you didn't stop any potential. Okay, well, with that logic, basically every time some dude shoots a load, and it's not inside a woman, then they did something wrong, because that potential was lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might sound crass or gross, but that was all I could think of right now.
No, and it's like, I don't know if some of them think that practicing protection, if any forms of protection are a form of abortion, because again, it prevents that from happening. So I'd be interested to hear that claim there, but.
Yeah. All right.
But anyways, next Tuesday, April 7th, we're going to have a debate, Ethan and Macy versus Jared and Savannah. Tell everyone, we're trying to get as many people to show up as possible. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. Have a nice day night, everybody. See you later.